Hey guys, BlackCross here, and originally I was going to go ahead and launch an episode of the PlayStation 2 Legacy today, but due to problematic issues, I wasn't able to get one prepared for today, so instead I figured now would be a good time to go ahead and introduce a new segment for the PlayStation 2 Legacy series. That segment is what I'm going to be calling bonus content. Bonus content is basically whenever people either ask me questions or I may pull out some fun facts about the PlayStation 2. And depending on who you are, it might be relevant to collecting hobbies that you might be doing. So with today's video on bonus content, I figured we go ahead and address a comment, a rather unpopular comment, that is known within social media. A lot of video game collectors hate this term, and rightfully so. It's very understanding. The way that it is written, it is usually looked at as a trolled way. But the way the statement is that it's 2020, why are people collecting old video games when newer ones are way better? As you can tell, most people don't like this comment. And like I said before, it is usually addressed as if it's towards a trollish way. But I figured the best way to take a bad comment is turn it into a good one, you know? And you're probably looking at me and you're like, how do you do that? Simple, really. You take, why would people collect retro games or old video games and stuff like that when there are newer ones that are way better? They're somewhat right. You know, the newer video games that we've got today are definitely better. But there's actually a actual reason why people, much like myself, would collect for retro video games. For some, like myself, it's mostly for nostalgia. Nostalgia plays a big part when it comes to the collecting scene of retro video games. You know, for me, particularly, my fondest memories of video games is mostly coming from the PlayStation 2, and rightfully so. The majority of the games that I have played in my youth was from the PlayStation 2. Some of my favorite video games spawned from the PlayStation 2, and the more I collect for the system, the more I find more intriguing and amazing games as I collect for it, you know? And it's the same way for many other people. In fact, a friend of mine in Del Mar, known as James McGann, he also collects for the NES. And one of the most popular things that I've heard him say, well, not from him specifically, but from Del Mar, he says the reason why that I collect for the NES is because there are some interesting and unusual games that was made for the system. And, you know, he's actually right about that. You know, in the NES, it was definitely a time where video games was in its early stages, and there was definitely a number of interesting titles that was made for the system. And the same can definitely be said for any particular console that you're collecting for. Like I said earlier, the PlayStation 2, I've been in love with the system whenever I was younger, and the more that I collect for it, the more interesting games that I find that I never even knew even existed, you know. And I only keep finding more interesting games as I keep collecting them and as I keep playing some of them. But really, in this hobby of collecting retro games is really, admittedly, not for everyone. And I think there has to be a certain level of, I suppose you could say, connection that has to be when it comes to collecting for any console, you know? And as weird as it may sound, yeah, there are actually people out there who are collecting games for current consoles, like for example the PS4 and the Xbox One. Those people are collecting for those systems because they are the current games right now, and they connect with them pretty well. And there's nothing wrong with that. There are a number of games that came out for those two systems that was really good. The same thing can be said for any console that came out, and it can be said for any particular console that is out there. For some people, they prefer like the handhelds because it's easy to get access to, and they can take with them wherever they want to. For other people, they prefer the console because of the fact that they can just sit down and relax and play the game as it is. And for some people, they prefer the VR because it makes them feel like as though as if they're literally in the middle of the action. But I think you have to have that connection before you can actually say the phrase that I'm going to collect for that particular system or something. You have to have an understanding of what you're about to get yourself into, as well as what you're willing to do in order to collect for that system. Are you going to be playing it any at all, or are you doing it in terms of historicalness? Are you interested in how the system was made and what the games were like? Are you interested in any of the accessories? Things of that nature. Or if you're a particular person who are collecting for a particular system, you might be on the process of building a book about it. And there's a couple of people who have actually done this, and you know what? There's nothing wrong with actually being invested in something in order to create something else entirely. So that's basically what the bonus content's going to be like, you know, just answering questions or just finding something interesting that some people probably didn't even know even existed. So, you know, let's see what bonus content is like. Let me know in the comments below, do you have a particular question involving either the hobby per se, or like, for example, anything regarding the PlayStation 2? I will be glad to try to answer them the best way that I can. So thank you so much, and hopefully next weekend I'll actually have an episode of the PlayStation 2 Legacy ready for you guys. So thank you so much. See you in the next video.